Right, welcome all to Upper Hunter Shire Council's Corporate Services meeting on the 19th of August 2022. Declare this meeting open at 9:03, and our first point of business is applications for attending meeting via video link. Do we have any?
There's no committee members attending, but I believe the Corporate Services Director will join us by Zoom once he can get in.
Thank you, General Manager. I see we have some apologies. If we could move some apologies there, please.
Yeah, just to let the committee know, Councillor Flaherty has sought a request for absence of leave. That won't come to council until next week at the council meeting on the 29th. But in the meantime, if councillors can note that she's made a request, and Councillor Abbott has also requested an extension to her leave. So one of the committee members will need to move in that direction.
I'll move it.
Right. Well, Councillor Burns has moved that we note and move the absence of Councillor Abbott and Councillor Flaherty. He's just going to move himself to a working microphone. But in the meantime, have we had any disclosures of interest, please, Director?
Nil received, Mr. Chair.
And public participation?
There's none noted for today, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Now, if we could move next into the agenda items. The first up today is the financial summary and investment report. If I could please hand over to Mr. Phelps. I think the recommendation for this document is that the committee note the fund and function of the summary report, and 2, note the capital works expenditure report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a working mic now, so we'll go through the actual report. As you can see on page 1. And this is more or less just the financial summary, and it's just giving an update on the initial one that we gave in July for the end of June 2022. So included in the background, as you can see there, there's a few changes that are happening in regards to some reporting requirements, plus also the bit of dialogue in regards to the actual budget result. It's incorporating majority of the end of year receivables and accounts payable now, and the capital works expenditure revised coming through. There's no cash and investment report, as that was tabled in July for the June period. So with the change in the framework for the reporting moving forward, the July report will be at the September corporate services meeting, and so on. So there'll be a 6-week lag for each of those meetings. Moving into the financial information summary. So the updated interim full year result indicates a negative variance to budget of just under $2 million compared to the 6.59 negative variance in the initial full year result. So obviously a lot of debtors have come into that result. We're continuing to write back some revenue and expenses, obviously with the end of year processing and recognition of the staff employment entitlements. So those will come through in other balance sheet items. Update on just the main impacts moving forward. With regards to the children's services, nothing really changed in regards to that result that was delivered in July. So it's lower than budget by 343, obviously with the vacancies of an ECT and the numbers of children in the facility. Government Place revenue has remained lower by about $100,000. We have got that facility now fully residented, so it's got 16 residents in which is its capacity coming through. General purpose revenues lower by 130, just with the lower interest rates that have happened throughout the course of the 22 financial year, has reduced down our assumptions in regards to our interest generation on our investments. The next 5 items there are mainly in regards to the airport. So at the moment, the airport operational revenue is down by about 156,000. The grant funding is higher by 466,000. Warbirds over Scone, as has been delivered in a few reports, excuse me, is lower by 400. The Warbirds Aviation Centre's revenue is lower by $400,000 as well, mainly due to the delay in the opening of the facility. And airport events and promotion activities, we were hoping with the Warbirds opening earlier in the financial year that we would have had some events coming through that would have generated a bit of income. Obviously, there'll be some costs that are actually lower as well to offset some of those revenue declines. One in front though, coming through with a lot of work done towards the back end of the June 22 quarter. The RMS State Roads revenues higher by about $750,000, which is quite good. So there's a lot of work undertaken there. The non-operating revenue and expenditure down by about $460,000 at the moment. The efficiency gains included in the 21-22 budget just being assessed and allocated against savings. Majority of the savings is the next pretty well line down when you get into the operating expenses is the associated corporate services areas that are lower than budget by about $380,000. So a lot of our savings come through in the corporate area that offset that $425,000. Other items in the operating expenditure as well. You got children's services cost below by $140,000. Obviously, that's a bit of an offsetter against the lower revenue streams with the reduced staffing because of the population of the children in that facility during the year. Government Place, as highlighted previously, its costs were quite significantly higher than budget coming through by 367. Our sporting grounds and venues operating costs were higher by about $150,000.
I'll just, if we just go to Government Place there, Mr. Phelps, explanation with the higher than budget costs due to staff, and would you like to elaborate on what's happening there?
Yeah, a lot of costs in regards to compliance of the facility. So with the Royal Commission that came down, we have a lot of requirements now through staffing at the facility. And also we are struggling to fill positions over there. So what it's meant is that we've had a lot of staff that have been doing overtime, which is more or less a cost to the business. And also the costs associated with registered nurses. We've struggled to actually put a registered nurse on as an employee. So we've had to use contractors to come in. So obviously that is another higher cost. The other items that are included in that higher value there is we used a consultant during the year to have a look at our ACFI, which is a form of revenue streams for the facility, which effectively cost us about $75,000, which will give us benefit of about $300,000 overall over the course of the next 12 months. So it's they went through and assessed all our residents based on dependency, which provides higher subsidies from the government. So they were the main items that pushed through on those items there.
Thank you.
Moving down just through the other higher operating costs that have come through. Sporting grounds, about 150,000, just with the increased level and service for some of our grounds over the last 3 months of the year, especially with a lot of the rain that's happened on those facilities. So we've had to put a bit more love and care into those grounds. Airport operational costs are higher by about 89,000. So we are looking at those costs going forward. Due to compliance requirements mainly with staffing. So that was one main reason why those have increased, because we more or less have a full-time airport coordinator now out at the facility, which effectively previous years we've only had to use sort of like 40% of somebody's salary. So we are looking at ways to reduce that salaries levels down in the current financial year.
How do we match against other regional airports in that area? Is that a question you can answer?
Yeah. We've done some investigation, or staff have done some investigation recently, and a number of same or similar type airports generally have 2 staff out there, which is what our model is going forward. So we have had to increase, we've more or less had 1.5 in previous years. But majority of the airports now have 2, just due to compliance and of the airport.
And that, so 2 is budgeted in the
Correct.
in the forward budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thanks. Moving into the Hunter Warbirds, obviously with the reduced revenue streams, we've also had reduced costs in that facility with the delay in the opening of the facility. As I said before, the airport events and promotions, obviously we haven't had any of those because of the delays. So obviously the costs associated with those, that revenue stream is down. Bridge maintenance is lower than budget by about $250,000.
Could grab you before we move off
Yep.
the aeroplanes. With the, so understanding the future budgets, with our movement of the VIC staff into the Hunter Warbirds, has that been accounted for in our future budget there, or will that be a modification later on?
That, through the chair, that'll be a modification going forward. So there will be some budget adjustments for that transfer of staff and so forth, and following a review of what those costs will look like moving forward.
Sorry, I'll just add to that. When Mr. Phelps says it's a budget adjustment, it'll be a favourable budget adjustment because council only made that decision at the last council meeting. So yeah, there should be some savings, further savings.
Thank you, General Manager. Moving now down through to the bridge maintenance. So obviously lower by $250,000. That sort of saving is mainly due to a lot of our capital works projects that we've got going at the moment, which is the 14 replacement of our timber bridges. We have gone through and had a major repair on the Allen Bridge item that's out along Sedgeon Hoe Road, which was covered by an insurance claim by the person who had the accident with the bridge.
Just Dartbrook Road and Sedgeon Hoe Road, the Allen Bridge.
Dartbrook Road, yes,
That'd be right.
that's correct. Yeah.
I happened to drive past Allen Bridge this morning. How do we source some funding to paint that historic bridge?
Through the chair, I've actually spoken to the infrastructure boys about that, which they were going to look at ways that we could paint that, but we will have to go through the heritage consultant in regards to the colours and so forth. So that is in train, and possibly with some savings from the June year, we might be able to undertake that work.
Just through you, Mr. Chair, is that, and I understand that heritage is but it's a white bridge. Do we really need to involve 30 different departments? Let's just get some tins of paint out and paint it.
Through the chair, I think it'll be a very basic conversation in regards to the actual structure itself, because it is white, but we do have to go through those mechanisms. Otherwise, we may be seen to be falling outside what our requirements are. Moving down to the last item there in regards to expenditure, the Transport for New South Wales costs, obviously they're higher, given that our revenue streams are higher as well. So that's just more or less the offset of there. Moving into the capital works expenditure, we're pretty well nearly smack on budget now coming through. There's a lot of items that are up and down within that capital works area. Campbell's Corner is a little bit lower, which will go off into an RA, which is a deferral to next year. The green lid waste bin, we're just waiting on an invoice to come in for that item for the 164. 62, Main Road 62 was lower by 146. The project is now complete, which is quite good.
Just on that, Wayne, I'd just like to congratulate those involved with that project, because that's a fantastic piece of infrastructure. And I have been speaking with people that might have been associated with that, and we've been able to come under budget because our council guys have been really, really on it the whole time. And just congratulations to the road crew on that job. That's a job well done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That will be obviously push down the avenues of that coming through, which is a great compliment. Footpaths, its project is lower by about 135,000. The project's a little bit behind schedule, so it'll be deferred into the 22-23 year. The first stage of Beltrees Hill, going up the Beltrees Hill there, that's now completed with a bit of overruns in regards to that project. So we're just having a look and just understanding why those overruns were incurred. A lot of it does have to do with the inflation of a lot of our material costs coming through, obviously with a lot of our projects, with obviously COVID and the economic outlook of political avenues. So unfortunately, we're struck by a bit of our own demise in regards to cost of materials at this point, and pipes as well. Local and regional roads heavy patch program, lower than budget by about $250,000. We have done a lot of patching work that with the flooding that has been happening at the moment, but a lot of that's been covered underneath our maintenance side of things, keeping it up to date. We will review those maintenance costs just to see whether or not there is any possibility of bringing through any major capitalizations into the end of year. Ringwood Road upgrades higher by about 211. Again, it's nearing completion. It's all but complete. Again, it's got cost overrun, and again, it's mainly due to the cost of our materials coming through for that project. And Aberdeen, the last one there, Aberdeen Public School, lower by about 120,000. Project's a little bit behind schedule with a bit of rain that's been hanging around towards the end of the June month. So it's now been pushed back so that to be completed in the July and November holiday period for the school to make it a safe work site. Just moving down the budget summary, there's no changes in the budget summary. We don't do any variations at this point in time because of the end of year processing is undertaken. And the final thing there is the capital expenditure report. As you can see there, just highlighting that our revised capital works expenditures now just a tick under $30 million, which we're pretty well spent all that by year end.
Right, thank you, Mr. Phelps. Might need some clarification on how to go forward with this here. We're to note these financial papers here, but there is a significant change in the reporting at the start of this document. I'd propose that I'd like to note this with an amendment, if we could. Mr. General Manager, I'd like to just see that this goes through this change, but as of 12 months from today or 12 months through, we review how we've gone with the reporting.
No, that's fine. I think we'd be comfortable with that. So it's probably just adding a third dot point to the recommendation of staff that the schedule put forward by council for the reporting be reviewed in 12 months' time.
Yeah, next.
I'll second that.
Yeah, thank you. So if we move forward to corporate 8.2, we're looking at the White Park Management and Development Committee report. I'll hand over to you, Mr. Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is more or less the minutes of the White Park Committee for the committee's review and effectively adoption.
We all happy with that, Councillor Burns?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I've read this before and I just worry that people are complaining to Mr. White instead of coming to council. Of course, Mr. White and his family are fantastic members of our community and donated White Park to what was then the Woolooma Shire. But it's appropriate for them to come to us and not to the White family.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good point. I think in the general business there, the concerns brought to Anto are real concerns, and I think that's something we're working on with our booking services at White Park, Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that was a concern that people thought they might get pushed out. No one had been pushed out and no one has been pushed out since. Our supervisor or coordinator who works down there has been able to accommodate all the small events in conjunction with the large events without anyone losing an opportunity to participate. So it is working.
Yeah, very good. A great result.
Terrific. All right. If we could please move that we adopt those minutes. I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Now we move on to Corporate Services 8.3, the Airport Management Committee. And I might, is there anything you have to add to that, Mr. McDonald?
No, Mr. Chair, this is again just putting forward the minutes from that meeting. You were actually at that meeting, so you're familiar with the minutes. So it's really just if you've got any questions, happy to take them. If we can answer them, we will. But putting the minutes forward for adoption.
Definitely. Well, are you happy if we move forward there, Councillor Burns?
Yeah, I'll move them.
Rightio, I'll happily second those. And it's great to be getting towards the end of the Hunter Warbirds project, and that will be up next in Corporate Services 8.4 with the Scone Airport project update. With Chris over there, Mr. I guess, can I clarify your last name, Chris?
It's pronounced Agosto.
Agosto. Thank you. And I'm sorry for my incompetence names. Agosto. Mr. Agosto, if you could please run us through that report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The project is winding down now, and during the last month, the activities all centred around the continuation of the perimeter fencing around the airport and the Hunter Warbirds and the installation of gates. That included work around through the other businesses, ECAM and Airspeed, and as well as that the gravel runway down in behind the houses that front Sater Row. So very good progress there during the month, even though the wet weather played havoc with us there once again. The condition of the runway is being monitored. We inspected that again during the month and made some notes and status report of the condition of all the surfaces. Freeman Ryan Design returned to install the lights that were faulty during installation. They had to be sent away for repair and brought back. So they came and installed those with no additional fee being charged. And there are a few minor defects that are being addressed with the Hunter Warbirds, just minor things that we're working through with the supplier. They're very responsive to our requests. And by the time we sit here next month, the fencing will be completed and all the gates in and the locks fitted to all of those, and the automated sliding gate will be functional. It's up at the moment. It's operational by manually, but the electrical works will be connected up and that'll be functional within the next week. The project is still running under budget. We've got a contingency bucket left of just over 50,000. There's a lot of call for that money to be spent on some other items around the Hunter Warbirds, but we're managing that and making sure that we spend that money on what we feel is the best value options.
Just on that, Mr. Augusto, of that $50,000, I believe we've committed to some furniture for the conference rooms there. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's correct. There's been some of that money has been used to order furniture.
Do we have a number on that yet? That I think that happened a couple of months ago now. Not that order.
Yes, it has been ordered. I'll have to take that on notice.
Through the chair, just under $30,000 has been ordered so far coming through.
Right. Thanks, Mr. Phelps.
Are there any other questions on the report?
No, all very good. I think probably a question I'll pose to the general manager. When do we have an official opening date for the museum?
We're still talking to the federal member's office about a date. We're looking at a date in October, and it will hopefully coincide with another event we've got going in that month as well. So once the date is confirmed, obviously councillors will be invited, but we need to ensure that the federal member and the state member are both available before we publicly advertise that date.
Very good. No, thank you for your report and all your work through this project. And you can probably be released onto many other projects next, no doubt. Now, Councillor Burns, are you happy with everything there?
Yeah, I'll move that, Mr. Mayor.
Rightio.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
I'll just be chair, thanks. I don't wish myself on those inconveniences.
We'll see.
If we could now move on to the final matter of business today, which is questions with notice. I've read through those and happy with what's there. Mr. Burns?
Yeah, I have no problems.
Got no problems. Is there anything you'd like to add at all there, Mr. McDonald?
Nothing other than just to bring council's attention that there was two other documents provided under separate cover, which were in regard to answering those questions. So they are in your papers.
Yep. No, and thank you for availing that information. Good to see the numbers on the airport increasing over time, especially with the opening of the cafe. That's really positive. So I'd like to move that those questions have been noted or answers have been noted.
Seconded.
We'll second that. And without any further issues for today, I think we can call this meeting closed at 9:33 AM, please.